Good evening, gamers. How are you doing? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. This is Boutus Gaming. This is the new channel that I have made. I don't know whether I'm going to get any viewers, but I certainly hope I will. But if you are watching this, this is a channel that will be dedicated to gaming lore, gameplay footage, of course, streaming, mainly role-playing games, strategy games, tabletop games and the sort. But we will start here with a lore video for one of my favourite universes, that is the Warhammer universe, both fantasy and 40k. And here we are in the 40k universe, and we are going to go in depth and find out who exactly Chaos are, where they come from, what do they want to do, and so forth. So we'll get into that now, but if you haven't yet, please like this video, subscribe to this new channel if you like the content, hit the notification bell and leave a comment down below. Let me know what I'm doing right, let me know what I'm doing wrong. I would love to hear from you, and let's build a community here together. Okay, let's go. Chaos, also known to its servants as the Primordial Truth or the Primordial Annihilator, and to the Imperium of Man as the arch-enemy, is the universal and usually malign spiritual force embodied by the malevolent intelligent entities comprised of psychic energies that live in the Immaterium. The entities who embody chaos are mostly the beings of pure psychic energy called the Chaos Gods, more on them later, and their demonic servants. But the term also encompasses those mortals who have thrown in their lot with chaos. These range from simple peasants and/or manufactorium labourers who serve as chaos cultists, to traitors of imperial blood, planetary militia, imperial nobles, planetary governors, and even the mighty Chaos Space Marines and Traitor Titan Legions of the Dark Mechanium themselves. Chaos is almost synonymous with the warp. The two concepts are, in actual fact, inseparable. For chaos is the limitless ocean of spiritual, psychic and emotional energies that defines the Immaterium and underlies the four-dimensional material universe of space-time. Chaos is a great and raw force of change and power, and is both physically and spiritually corrupting, though it is not in itself necessarily evil. While its adherents and servants act in ways that are often malevolent, some devotees of chaos are more dedicated to the service of freedom and change than of the pure selfishness that humanity and most other intelligent species define as nefarious. However, more often than not, the Chaos Gods reward individual accomplishments in such a way that the ends justify the means, and the absence of hierarchy and emphasis on individual freedom lead to the pursuit of excess and personal aggrandizement that can only be characterized as damnation. The most evolutionarily advanced mortals, psychers, can utilize this energy, thus making them capable of abilities which transcend the standard physical laws of the material universe as humanity understands them. However, the malevolent power of chaos can gradually corrupt a psyker, tainting his mind and body and turning him into the slave of the Ruinous Powers. The most powerful entities of chaos are the four great Chaos Gods, also known as the Ruinous Powers, who each embody one aspect of the greater force of chaos and can be worshipped individually or as an entire pantheon known as Chaos Undivided. The iconic symbol of chaos is the 8-pointed star, representing the infinite possibilities of chaos. Ultimately, chaos and its entities seek nothing less than the complete destruction of the material universe, so that all of creation is once more consumed by the primordial and uncontained energies of chaos. In general, chaos is a malevolent spiritual force that represents the collective negative aspects of the psyches of every sentient being in the Milky Way galaxy, and most likely in the wider universe. Because mankind is by far the most populous intelligent species in the Milky Way as of the late 41st millennium, the Chaos Gods particularly embody humanity's myriad and particular flaws as a people. Chaos corrupts mankind so easily because it speaks to the character flaws inherent in every man and woman, and seeks to exploit the weaknesses of their all-too-human natures. It takes an extraordinary individual of truly iron will and selflessness to resist the serial temptations of chaos. It is also these inherent character flaws that produce the rampant physical and anatomical mutations of individuals exposed to chaos energies, as these mutations are driven by the inner flaws of the person's psyche being made manifest in their physical person as chaos bridges the gap between the immaterium and real space. At the dawn of time, the powerful and ancient alien race known only as the Old Ones nurtured some of the primitive intelligent races of the Milky Way galaxy, guiding their development to suit a specific purpose. The warp at this time was not the intrinsically hostile place to life that it became in the later ages. Once the Necrons arose to challenge them and nearly wrought their extinction because of their alliance with the malevolent star gods known as the Citan, the Old Ones created new psychic warrior races to battle this threat they posed, hoping that these species' stronger ties to the warp and potent psychic powers would turn the tide against the Necrons and their Citan masters in the ancient war in heaven. One of these races was the ancestors of the Eldari, and among the others were the Croc, who may have been the ancestors of the green-skinned orcs. Just before the birth of the Emperor of Mankind on Terra in the 8th millennium before Christ, three other major chaos gods of the present, Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, had already begun to take form in the warp, although it would take until the end of Terra's European Middle Ages, midway through the 2nd millennium, for them to fully awaken. Slaanesh did not awaken until the 30th millennium, brought into existence by the terrible collective psychic flaws of the ancient Eldari, with its birth to consciousness in the warp, marking the end of the Eldari's great interstellar empire and the Age of Strife, as well as the beginning of the Emperor's Great Crusade and the birth of the Imperium of Man. In truth, time has no meaning within the Empyrean, and from the point of view of the Dark Gods, all four of them are relatively newborns, while at the same time they have existed since the first mortal woke to sentience in the galaxy tens of millions of Terran years ago. The rise of chaos and the first three chaos gods seems to correspond to the rapid rise and development of humanity in the Milky Way galaxy, implying that mankind, of all the sentient species of the galaxy, was primarily responsible for the disharmonizing of the warp and the birth of the first three chaos gods, or at least the first major chaos gods in their current form. Although without question all of the sentient species of the Milky Way played a role in the birth of the chaos gods, it seems that mankind has an especially close relationship with chaos, or that the nature of mankind's collective psyche is particularly aggressive, unstable, and yes, chaotic. Insane savants argue that the material universe experienced by mortals represents only the tip of the iceberg, and unseen realms exist just beyond perception. They say that the limitless depths of the realm of chaos surround and infuse the tiny chips of physicality that are planets and suns to mortal eyes. They declare that what humanity sees as reality is only a mask, a cloak of normality over the vast and swirling ocean known as the Immaterium, the warp, or the realm of chaos. The raw, unfocused energy of the realm of chaos forms a parallel dimension to the material universe, a place of infinite possibilities where raw emotion, belief, and Jungian symbolism hold sway. The realm changes constantly, ebbing and flowing in different locales as it does so. The flows, swirls, and eddies that it creates can form patterns and designs, drawing similar energies into themselves until they achieve a level of consciousness and purpose. When they find the courage to acknowledge the existence of such powers, men call them the Chaos Gods. Many nameless gods have been cast up by the warp only to be swept away again by the slow beat of aeons, but 4 great powers of chaos seem eternal. Khorne, the Blood God, Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasures, Nurgle, the Lord of Decay, and Tzeentch, Changer of the Ways. In primitive cultures, countless creation myths are told of the formless void before the coming of the gods. In some tales, the gods are said to have shaped the world from parts of themselves. In others, they slay a great beast and use its bones to lay the foundation of creation. In others, the mortal realm is formed from the debris left by their great battles with one another. Seers and magicians of more studious societies make complex arguments for the material universe having given birth to the ruinous powers, rather than vice versa. They hold that the ocean of primordial essence that we now see as the seething realm of chaos was calm and undisturbed until it began to be altered by mortal passions and desires. Materially, it matters little what came first. The ruinous powers are real, tangible forces in both the realm of chaos and the material universe. They absorb the energies of countless souls in turmoil, waxing ever stronger on the hopes and fears of mortals until they have become truly godlike entities. If mortals truly gave birth to the entities that have become the ruinous powers, no hint of mortal frailty remains. The gods of chaos represent absolutes completely unsullied by indecision or mercy. Even beyond the realm of chaos, there are some that give their fealty to ruinous powers. Those that proclaim themselves followers of the chaos gods must cleave their own path, and soon learn to fear the blessings of their deities. Countless gibbering madmen have declared that they have seen the true face of chaos and received messages from the gods. Physical corruption, mutation, and stigmata are apt to sprout from the followers of chaos like unholy fruit. Even so many that lust for power disregard such risks, thinking they can evade the consequences of meddling with powers beyond comprehension. The gods care nothing for their followers or their machinations, granting them unimaginable power or withdrawing it from them just as quickly as their fickle whims decree. Mortals are mere playthings to them, to be used and cast aside, at best the objects of momentary fascination. Perhaps they know that once the process of a soul's corruption has begun, it becomes truly inevitable, and that the taints of chaos will bring living souls to the gods whether they declare themselves devout or not. It is more likely the Ruinous Powers are simply unaware of the mass of mortality in any conscious sense, because their state of existence and motivations are too vast, too alien to comprehend. The gods of chaos are such remote and terrifying entities that most mortals who know of their existence hope only to escape their notice. Khorne. Khorne is the blood god, the god of war, murder and violent death. He draws his power from the blood and the skulls collected for him by his followers. The sheer amount of bloodshed and death in the galaxy currently has made Khorne the most powerful of the Chaos gods. He sits upon a brass throne which rests on a massive mountain of skulls, each taken in his name by a devotee. In every direction, as far as he can see, the ground is covered with shattered bones and rotted corpses. As the god of battle, Khorne bestows his favour on those who demonstrate martial prowess. Great warriors are often subjects of Khorne's interest. The followers of Khorne are almost all uncontrollable fighters who excel at the art of killing. His war hosts count many savage heretic Astartes and mutant warriors among their numbers. Khorne's followers share their god's straightforward philosophy on warfare, preferring to charge directly at their foes in order to defeat them in close, usually by melee combat. As such, Khorne's followers are generally berserkers that pay little heed to tactics or defense in their frenzy for blood. Khorne frowns upon the use of sorcery, psychic powers and trickery, and those who use sorcery or are psykers should look elsewhere to find a patron for their studies. Khorne is the most powerful of the Chaos gods, given that he is empowered by war and fighting. The ceaseless conflict in the Warhammer 40k universe ensures he gains power constantly. Khorne is a god of war who acts outwardly by seeking the death of others, preferring close combat over ranged weaponry. As such, he is completely opposed to the hedonistic Slavish, an inwardly acting god who seeks pleasure in every act and experience. Nurgle. Nurgle is one of the four great Chaos gods and is the god of disease and decay, born out of every mortal's fear of death. He is the embodiment of the hungry earth, the carrion crow, whose poxes and plagues are inflicted upon all. Nurgle's power waxes and wanes over time as his gifts to the myriad worlds are spread and cured or simply killed off everything in plain sight. Many of Nurgle's victims will eventually turn to his worship in the hope that it will ward off or ameliorate the torment they suffer at his hands. For entertainment, Nurgle will orchestrate plagues and new diseases, such as the plague of unbelief, the zombie plague, and watch bemusedly as the mortals struggle to fight the illness and develop a cure. Many of Nurgle's wars are indirectly won simply through the plagues that sweep the land before his enemies. Of particular note is Nurgle's rot, which gradually changes a victim into a plague bearer. Nurgle's followers tend to have a strong interest in the spread of disease. His worshippers become infected with horrific diseases which cause them to appear as disgusting, bloated and rotted masses of barely recognizable flesh, with many sores and open wounds in which infection and decay is rampant. Occasionally, Nurgle's followers may become wizened, sickly thin and pale, while still having great power over disease. His champions become so mutated and putrid that they are impervious to pain and almost impossible to injure. While equal in power with Khorne and Tzeentch, Nurgle's power is much less stable. At times, his forces are limitless and unbeatable, numberless rotting armies scouring the land of life. Slaanesh. Slaanesh is the Dark Prince of Chaos, the god of pleasure and pain. Slaanesh is the beguiling water, the great serpent who lives for pleasure and the experience of the sensations of life and death. All who live in the pursuit of pleasure risk falling under this god's deceptive charms. Slaanesh is the youngest of the Chaos gods and referred to by the other Ruinous Powers as the Prince of Chaos. Seductive in the way that only an immoral being can be, Slaanesh is the Chaos god of pleasure, passion, luxury, art and indulgence. Slaanesh is the manifestation of all hidden vices, cruel passions and secret temptations that mortals hide fearfully in their hearts. While not interested in the dirty warfare of Khorne, Khorne and Slaanesh are mortal enemies, as Slaanesh acts inwardly upon the mortal psyche by seeking selfish pleasure, while Khorne acts outward to kill others. Slaanesh does enjoy combat of the artistic sort, rewarding those whose fighting is transformed from a means to an end, and thus into an art form all of its own. Slaanesh's followers seek pleasure in every experience, and quickly become inured to more mundane things, including sounds and colours. Thus they frequently wear garish, brightly coloured armours or clothing which is extravagantly decorated. Worshippers of Slaanesh are known for their complete lack of fear, as they see losing a battle as a new experience to be enjoyed. Slaanesh is the youngest and weakest of the major Chaos gods. However, Slaanesh is constantly growing in power due to the corrupt and dark nature that all sentient beings, but particularly the Eldari and humanity, try to keep hidden within their hearts. For even the mere act of thinking about such dark acts of pleasure and vice are enough to give spiritual strength to Slaanesh. Tzeentch. Tzeentch is the changer of ways, the god of change and dark knowledge. Tzeentch is the inconstant heir, the great eagle who pulls the strings of fate in whichever way he pleases. The minions and followers of Tzeentch manipulate the sorcery and psychic powers of the warp in their rawest form, and often know the thoughts and fates of their foes even before they do themselves. Not interested in raw strength, Tzeentch bestows his favour upon those who use their intelligence to fight their enemies. Mortal worshippers of Tzeentch tend to be sorcerers, psychers, scholars and other educated elites who desire greater knowledge and power. Some of these worshippers become very powerful sorcerers, but Tzeentch has a tendency to mutate his followers, and the highest levels of power are said to be difficult for his followers to reach, as they frequently find themselves mutated into mindless beasts like Chaos Spawn. Those who do attain great power in the service of Tzeentch, however, are extremely powerful foes, who are often mighty sorcerers as well as great warriors. Tzeentch is as powerful as Khorne, but with a different style of power, controlling sorcery and psychic strength instead of armies. The plots of Tzeentch are countless, and whenever there is an alliance of chaos undivided forged by the gods of chaos, Tzeentch is undoubtedly the cause, direct or indirect. Tzeentch also represents optimism, hope and the willingness to change, thus making Nurgle his nemesis. The enigmatic chaos power Tzeentch is known by many titles, including the Changer of Ways, the Master of Fortune, the Great Conspirator, and the Architect of Fate. These titles reflect its masterly comprehension of the twisting paths of destiny, history, intrigue, and plots. The hopes and plans of every mortal and every nation whisper through its many-chambered mind. Its all-seeing eye watches as plots unfold and intrigues alter the course of history. The Servants of Chaos. The Imperium is mighty and its reach is long, but the infinite realm of chaos is greater still. Even in the material universe, the Emperor's followers only control islands of light in a sea of darkness. There are many who do not want to the protection of the Imperium, who defy its laws and seek to undermine its works. Even inside the Imperium itself, rebels and secessionists struggle constantly to overthrow the chains of oppression, particularly among the lowliest underclasses created by the priesthood of terror. There are those that have not forgotten the taste of freedom, those who would rather give their fealty to the uncaring Ruinous Powers than grovel before the corpse god of distant terror. Some are peoples who seek to escape from bondage and go to any lengths to secure their release. Others resist the power of the Imperium without truly knowing why they are doing it, motivated simply by a conviction that they must fight against the tyranny that it allegedly represents. All of these people are the servants of chaos, and knowingly or unknowingly they continue to fight in the long war begun by Horus 10 millennia past. Those who live without. The first group of those the Imperial brand as heretics are those who live beyond Imperial control by living outside the boundaries of the Imperium of Man itself. Though the Imperium is vast, its authority stretching from rim to rim of the galaxy, in reality there are vast swathes of space unknown to the Imperium of Man. These regions have many names, including, but by no means restricted to, the Outlands, the Wilderness Space, and the Halo Stars. Within them, whole civilizations can rise, prosper, and then fall without once knowing of the wider Imperium that surrounds it. Just as the Imperium is vast beyond proper comprehension, so too are the renegade warbands on worlds deemed too insignificant to warrant an Imperial presence. Their only contact limited to ambitious missionaries of the Imperial Creed and periodic orbital surveys by passing patrols. Others may be independent starships, mining operations, and whole colonies existing in regions too difficult for Imperial void ships to reach. On occasions, entire star systems have been isolated by warp storms for centuries, re-establishing contact with the outside universe and, sensibly, opt to keep themselves hidden from the Imperium. The Calixis sector of the Segmentium Obscurus exists among the edges of the galaxy, an established bastion of Imperial control among the hazy border. Thus, it is surrounded by regions of space not under Imperial control. The most prominent is the Coronus Expanse in the Halo Stars, linked to the Calixis sector by a fluctuating warp passage known as the Coronus Passage, or the Maw. Beyond this passage, Imperial rule ends, and all manner of human civilizations exist, unknown and undiscovered. However, there are other outlands around the Calixis sector as well, including the Hazaroth Abyss, the fringes of the Drusus Marches subsector, and the nomad space between the Calaxis and the bordering Izaniad sector. Those who live within. For those with no love for the Emperor's laws, life inside the Imperium is a daily peril. Within a social system where the innocent are routinely persecuted, the guilty must stay especially on their guard if they hope to survive. For most citizens, the Imperium is nothing but a source of oppression and fear, and not all of those that cry out against the yoke of its authority are those dedicated to the servants of chaos. The religious intolerance of the ecclesiarchy persecutes entire belief systems by branding them as heresy and demon worship for the slightest deviation from the dogmatic and orthodox imperial creed. Psychers and mutants face a terrible fate at the hands of the Imperium, at best existing as a shunned underclass in those rare places where they are not executed on sight. Political parties, labour movements, guilds, and even criminal organisations that were once vilified by the citizenry can sometimes become their outlet for anti-imperial sentiment when the authorities tighten their grip. Fear of an inquisition quickly drives these diverse groups underground to form a hidden network of cells and covens dedicated to the downfall of imperial rule. Secret cults of worshippers tend shrines dedicated to their ancient gods in secret, whilst presenting a face of bland devotion to the God Emperor in public. Humble workers toil in the factories whilst they plan revolution and the overthrow of their hated bosses. Wherever there is sedition and dissent, the conditions become ideal for the subtle spread of chaos. The lure of arcane law and unearthly power exercises a fatal attraction for the ambitious and the desperate alike. All over the galaxy, even on Mars and ancient Terra, there are people willing to dabble in matters beyond their understanding in the pursuit of power or forbidden knowledge that will set them apart or even above their peers. Not all of these realise they are dealing with the powers of chaos, innocently becoming involved through warrior societies or intellectual communities that may appear outwardly quite benign in nature. Often, a chaos power is venerated under a different guise, with seemingly unconnected name, and a host of demon princes and lesser powers are worshipped by different cults with just as much fervour as those dedicated to the great powers of Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh. Some cultures devote themselves to chaos in its unaligned glory and see the powers of chaos as a pantheon of gods, a polytheistic outlook common in many tribal religions. Demonic incursions. In order for a demon to break through into the mortal universe, there must be a breach of the barriers between warp space and the material realm, a warp rift. These are breaches in the fabric of reality that can vary in nature and size, such as the massive Eye of Terror or the Maelstrom. Sometimes these occur randomly, at other times either mortals or the Chaos Gods themselves bring about their creation by some supernatural act. The size of the breach can vary tremendously, from a slight thinning of the dimensional walls to immense wounds in reality that allow the demonic legions to invade en masse. At times when certain conditions, like the appearance of a warp storm or a sorcerous ritual, have weakened the barrier between the warp and real space, a demon can possess a mortal and turn him or her into a living portal through which a whole host of demonic entities can pass for a time into the material universe. These demonic incursions can taint real space severely, often twisting and reshaping whole planets until they are lost into the warp. becoming a part of the Imperium and thus transformed into demon worlds. It is not surprising that the Inquisition's demon hunters, the Ordo Malleus, are granted unlimited resources and political power by the High Lords of Terror to deal with such terrible threats to the continued existence of mankind. Often it is the tumultuous movement of the warp itself that creates a break in the material realm, allowing demons to spill through the resulting breach. This might happen by chance, even such as the onset of warp storms, warp drive implosions, or a rogue psyker's mind suddenly exploding with raw power can cause a rift to appear in the Immaterium. At other times, the deliberate rituals and blood sacrifices of chaos-worshipping mortals can allow the teeming hordes of the Chaos Gods to smash through into the material realm. Sometimes simple mortal suffering, death and misery on a massive enough scale can form a warp rift that a demonic legion might use as a portal. Some warp rifts last mere solar hours, or even moments, for the nature of chaos is ever impertinent. A demonic army that has passed through such a rift can become trapped in real space and will swiftly succumb to the constant leeching of the chaos energy required to maintain its presence. Of these, the greatest and most dangerous warp rift is the Eye of Terror, which has lasted for more than 10,000 standard years. The eye can be seen as a purple-red bruise upon the firmament from fully half the worlds claimed by the Imperium. It was created by the birth of the Chaos God Slanesh in the early 30th millennium and is home to unnumbered demon worlds fought over by demons and mortals alike. The infamous Traitor Legion of the Chaos Space Marines are among them. Another warp rift of excessive magnitude is the Maelstrom, found near the galactic core and a haven for thousands of pirates and renegade Space Marine chapters. Other, less widely known warp rifts do exist, such as the Heart of Darkness near to the world of Attila, the Storm of Judgment that engulfs almost all of the Caridryad sector, Hell's Gullet, which threatens to swallow the Beryllian system whole, and the infamous Screaming Vortex that marks the border between the Calixis sector and the frontier of the Coronus Expanse in the Halo stars. Random warp rifts are often caused by warp storms, roiling expanses of turbulence within the realm of chaos that are echoed in real space, restricting warp-dependent travel and communication. If they become focused or powerful enough, they can pull the fabric of reality taut or even tear it open. Completely unpredictable warp storms can be isolated to single planets or expand to encompass whole sectors. One of the worst warp storms ever recorded in human history cut Terra itself off from the rest of the galaxy for the entire 5,000-year-long epoch known as the Age of Strife. The unfortunate worlds in the vicinity of such a cataclysmic event can become the playgrounds for demons until the storm finally expends itself. A few warp storms have endured for so long that they can be considered permanent. Their self-sustaining energies trapped nearby planets and star systems in a quagmire of rolling chaos. Without the warp, there would be no psykers, no interstellar travel, and no interplanetary communication. In fact, the warp is essential for the survival of humanity. And that was the video, Who Are Chaos? I hope you enjoyed it, especially if you made it all the way through. Let me know what you think about my presentation style, what I'm doing good, what I'm doing well, what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing bad. Either way, let me know. I Hope you enjoyed the video. I've always been intrigued about Chaos. I myself I've never actually had a Chaos army. I've had a Tyrannid army, Dark Angel, Blood Angel, Dark Eldar, but I've never had a tabletop army from Chaos. But I've always loved Chaos. I've always been intrigued with Nurgle. He's my favourite Chaos god, and we will go in depth in particular in regards to certain people and certain deities and even certain troops within Chaos itself. But this was an overview. This was a bird's eye view of who Chaos are from beginning to end. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video and that lot. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.